Hi everyone, welcome to Plain Impact without the fluff. I'm Hana, and this is the very first episode where we pull sustainability down from the conference panels and keynotes and talk about what actually shapes lives on the ground. Now, over the past few weeks, a piece by Bill Gates titled 3 Tough Truths About Climate has been everywhere. Some called it refreshingly realistic, and others accused him of giving up. And then, of course, President Donald Trump jumped on X, claiming the article proved he'd won the climate debate. But that reaction and the whole circus around it say less about Gates and more about how allergic we've become to nuance. So today, let's just slow this feed down. We'll start with what Gates actually wrote, then move on to the reactions, and finally, what I think it reveals about the way we are currently framing climate and human progress. So, Gates's essay. Gates begins with a line that actually stopped everyone mid-scroll. Yes, climate change will bring serious consequences, especially for the poorest, but it will not end civilization. That single sentence lit up the headlines, stripped of context, of course, because the essay underneath it is actually less doom and gloom and more course correction. He argues that the world has already made surprising progress. Renewable energy, cheaper, batteries, better, electric vehicles, more mainstream. Projected 2040 emissions are now more than 40% lower than what experts expected a decade ago. Then he pivots. He says our obsession with temperature targets, that 1.5 degrees Celsius number, is narrowing our field of vision. That we're so busy counting carbon that we sometimes forget to count people. So his proposal: keep pushing innovation to bring the green premium, the extra cost of clean tech, down to zero, while also investing in the things that make life livable: agriculture, health, education, resilience. He even suggests the Human Development Index, life expectancy, education, income, might tell us more about real progress than degrees on a thermometer. In other words, success isn't just emissions down, it's people thriving in a changing climate. It's classic Gates: pragmatic, tech minded, optimistic. And to be fair, his optimism has moved billions of dollars into clean innovation. But optimism alone, once online, tends to mutate. Within hours, that nuance evaporated. News clips ran with the opening line alone: Gates says climate change won't destroy civilization. Cue the think pieces, cue the outrage, and then President Trump's post declaring victory, that the so-called climate alarmists have finally admitted defeat. That's how quickly a 6,000-word essay turns into a single slogan. When a billionaire says we'll be okay and a president declares we won, the entire middle ground disappears. But Gates wasn't saying stop. He was saying widen the lens. And the irony is that in trying to make the conversation more humane, he triggered one of the least humane things about the internet: the appetite for a headline war. Climate scientists like Michael Mann and Katherine Hayhoe responded fast, warning that toning down the language could tone down ambition. Because if leaders hear we'll be fine, budgets shrink and urgency fades. So once again, we're stuck in our favorite false binary. We're either doomed or we're done. No room for the complicated middle where actual life, actual work happens. Now, here's how I read it. If you work in sustainability long enough, especially in places where climate conversations meet daily survival, like the global south, you start to see that progress isn't a straight line. It's a web of trade-offs and unequal power. When Gates says we need to prioritize human welfare, he's right. When he implies we can downplay emissions to do it, he's actually missing the entire system beneath the symptoms. Because adaptation has limits. You can only climate-proof so much before the background temperature breaks the model. And without deep mitigation, every gain you make today gets eroded tomorrow. There's also the question of who pays for welfare. Right now, developing countries need roughly $300 billion every year for adaptation. They're getting about 1/10 of that. So if rich nations read Gates as a permission to slow down their own decarbonization while funding a few resilience projects here and there, we're actually just outsourcing vulnerability. And that's the quiet part of the climate story we rarely say out loud. Inequality isn't a byproduct of the crisis, it's actually baked into its economics. Who emits, who adapts, who pays? That's the real balance sheet. And that's why the whole mitigation versus adaptation argument is a trap. People on the ground never make that distinction. A farmer deciding between diesel and drought resistant plants or seeds doesn't call it mitigation or adaptation. It's just survival, and survival needs both. Now, there's plenty in Gates's essay that is actually worth defending. He's right that innovation matters. He's right that affordable clean tech changes everything. He's right that agriculture and health need climate funding now, not later. But he's underselling the politics. He treats the problem like an engineering challenge when it's also a justice challenge, because technology does not deploy itself. Power is the one that deploys it. He also glosses over the institutions that would actually make his ideas real. Development banks, blended finance vehicles, carbon pricing systems that actually channel capital where it needs to go. Without those, innovation will save us is just a line. And the language climate change will not end civilization may be statistically true, but it's communicatively clumsy. In a world of disinformation, words scale faster than nuance. A sentence meant to reassure becomes a meme that stalls action. Now, watching the conversation these past weeks reminded me why I wanted to start doing this, why I wanted to start Plain Impact in the first place. We're terrible at living in the middle space where progress and peril coexist. Mitigation versus adaptation, science versus welfare, crisis versus hope. But in reality, these things blur together. A nurse in Lagos installing solar panels on a clinic roof is actually, mind you, doing both welfare and climate action. And if a city in Brazil is planting trees for shade, it's actually adapting and sequestering carbon. Real life refuses to pick sides. And that's the part I don't want us to lose: the nuance, the complexity, the connection between climate and everyday life and dignity. Because development, if we can use that word without the jargon, is adaptation. And decarbonization is justice. Neither can happen in isolation. So, what do we take away from all of this? That nuance is fragile but vital. Progress and danger can be true at the same time. And that any leader, even a sitting president, who declares I won about climate has entirely missed the point. Winning isn't a tweet. It's a child who doesn't die of heat stroke. It's a farmer whose harvest survives a drought. It's a city that runs on clean power but is actually still affordable for people to live in. That's what winning looks like. This was Plain Impact, my very first episode. If it resonated with you, if you like thoughtful conversations that live between the extremes, let me know about it. Should we keep going? Should the next episode unpack COP30? Should we explore what energy transitions really mean in the global south? Reach out, tag me, and share your thoughts. Because impact isn't about noise, it's about clarity. And until next time, I'm Hannah, and this was Plain Impact, Impact Without the Fluff. Thank you.